Gather round. It's time for your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group. Listen closely as your coaches discuss the culture, the economy, and the political scene, and how it affects your home and your real estate investments. Real Estate Chalk Talk is where you learn the science of buying and selling real estate and the art of living in your home. Your education begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome to the program. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group, HittnerGroup.com. Hittner Group, that's all one word, kids, HittnerGroup.com, 612-627-8000. That's the number you see on the signs around town, 612-627-8000. Give us a ring-a-ling-a-ling. Happy to have a chat with you about your real estate needs. And, of course, that first conversation is all with no cost and absolutely no obligation. So it's time to get your home ready to sell for spring if you're thinking about making a move either now or sometime this year. Good time to get things fired up. Good time to do a little survey around the mansion to see what kind of maintenance items that you might want to attack before putting your home on the market. So give us a call. We'd like to chat with you about that. Okay, here's the numbers, kids. Ready?
Ready.
Active listings, 7 county metropolitan area, 5,615, as opposed to 5,528 a week ago, just barely up 87. A year ago it was 5,400, so we do have, a year ago it was 5,000 even, so we're up about 600.
Wow.
Not bad, 9.7% increase in the number of homes on the market, 7 county metropolitan area. Days on market, 45.5, going up. 45.5, a little slower. Keith Renner, you've had a lot of multiple. I'm surprised to hear how many multiple offers.
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, I'm seeing multiple offers, and but then again, I was looking at some townhouses. This was like 800 to a million. Everything was multiple offers. That is good. We want nice houses.
Yeah.
So do other people, and so there's activity there, and then also in like the 450-ish range as well. Almost everything that we looked at is gone with over a period of a week. It's not like one day on the market, 50 offers, but over the course of that first weekend, Monday check-ins, and then all of a sudden there's an offer or two coming in. But then I'm noticing some townhouses sitting on the market in the 250s that I would expect come a little bit into spring here will start to go.
My opinion about townhouses is they're going to have a challenging year.
Yeah?
I just think because of the association stuff that's going on with townhome associations, costs going up, just costs of maintenance and that going up, and insurance costs. You have so many of the townhomes now, they're peeling off the insurance into a separate line item.
Yep.
And because then that's not subject to the caps. And they're floating up, 25-30% still on some of those associations as those policies come due. And so it's not uncommon to see $400 a month dues.
It's crazy
on
high
association
right now.
living.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's...
We had one this week that came across that, they're putting the deductibles up, and most lenders can't get that done. We can still get those done, so... But, man, it's expensive, and it really changes your purchasing power. We've got people that have pre-approved, but when they go to a townhome, you can't buy nearly as much home.
Here's something, guys. New pended listings. So new pended listings in the first week of the month, or first week of the year, I'm sorry, it was 1,085.
Okay.
All right. Last week it was 594.
Pending.
New pended.
Say
week before 569.
Describe what that means for people.
That means
pending.
that sales that have properties that have sold this week and gone into what we call a pended status, where they're waiting for, the closing to happen, things to get scheduled, maybe some inspection items that need to be cleared, maybe association docs that need to be approved. Sometimes they'll go into pending. Status for that. A year ago it was 645.
Well, it's dramatically
down 7.9% from a year ago, and that's reflective of the new solds. So the new solds, 432 this week. Those are properties that have closed.
Okay.
Right. So they could have sold in December.
Yep.
We could have sold in January, but this week they closed 432. That's 606 a year ago. So that's off significantly. And here's the big one. Year to date, through January, not year to date, through
Right.
January, end of January, numbers are in. 1,656 properties closed.
Okay.
All right. A year ago, January, was 2,037. Now people say, "Oh yeah, the weather." No, these properties were not impacted by weather.
Mm-hmm.
This was stuff that had sold
Wow.
and is just now closed in January.
So does this shift you to a buyer's market?
Well, I think we're.
maybe?
I think
Or
we're.
what? 'Cause
Yes,
you know what I mean.
it would
Because
inch you in that direction. Absolutely, it would inch you in that direction, even in spite of the interest rates that are decent.
Mhm.
And often now not even part of the conversation. I mean, they're always part of the conversation,
but-
but it's not a barrier anymore to buy,
Yep.
as it was before. The shock value
Right.
of a 6% interest rate is not there anymore. I just think that it's indicative of a normalized market.
Yeah, but month supply of inventory isn't really.
No, that's kind of stayed the same, about 2 months. It's pretty typical. Carver County's 2.15, Scott County 2.18, Anoka County 1.3, Dakota County 1.8, Hennepin County 1.5.
Which is more like a seller's market.
It is more like a seller's market.
Yeah.
So that's where the dichotomy comes in, where people are like, is it a buyer, is it a seller? We're seeing a lot of give and take.
Yeah. So you're seeing multiple offers here. We're getting seller paid closing costs on the majority of what we see coming in now.
I talked to Jared, this last weekend about a couple different things, and he says he's had, instances where they got pre-approvals out, purchase agreements in place, and they're just not getting them because of multiple offers.
I know. It's
Contract ratio way down 41%. That means that for properties that are under contract versus all properties.
crazy. Okay.
Okay, so that ratio is under 41%.
What's that mean?
Well, in years past, well, even if you go back to 23, it was 67%.
But what does that mean? 60%
That's
of what?
of the total number of properties that are for sale,
Yep.
are on the market in any status.
Okay.
47% of them or 41% of them are pending.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
So that gives you an indication of the velocity of the market. Right. So the faster moving market, you would have that higher
Got it.
percentage as opposed. So you're waiting for more properties to come on the market. Well, we've got properties on the market.
So a little bit slower market.
A little bit slower market.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit slower market at the end of the day. And you're having a hard time finding properties, Keith. We were talking about a coffee clutch this morning.
Well, I have a hard time getting properties that we're putting offers in on. I think there's plenty to look at, and like we always talk about, if you're with inventory is not significant. We don't have a ton of homes on the market like we've seen in the past. And when you try to kind of nail yourself down to a specific area, that becomes very hard. When you're looking at a certain price point in a certain school district, there's not a lot to choose from. When you're maybe you don't have ties to a specific community, then the perspective is there's plenty to choose from. If you're looking, West Metro, South Metro, East Metro, that's great because there's plenty to choose from then. And every one of those locations has new construction and price points around, $450 to $800, depending on your budget. And resale properties available too. But again, if you're looking for an individual elementary school district, it gets pretty challenging.
From a listing standpoint, price determination is you got to really be careful. I mean, I just think you got to be really careful. We have a townhome coming on the market this week in Burnham Wood in Burnsville, $300,000 one level, and gorgeous, updated kitchen, all that stuff. It's $300,000. Well, that's you look, you think $300,000. Holy crap! What can you get for $300,000? Nothing, But then you look on the market for and the prices are like, boy, $300,000. That's a lot compared to the comparables.
You mean a higher price?
Yeah. So there's no justification to go like $350 or something like that. Would be just way over your skis on that property. But then I say, okay, well now I'm a white-haired guy. I'm looking for a one-level deal. I just want to park my butt in here for the summer months and head down south in the winter.
Yep.
$300,000 looks good. What's available to me? Nothing. There's just nothing. There's nothing there.
Get it on the market then.
Yeah, it's coming on.
That sounds like a good gig too.
Yeah. But
you live in a townhouse, then get out of here for a few months.
No kidding.
Sounds perfect.
Think about it.
Aruba? No, I never do that.
No, can't do that.
I miss your son's hockey games. I can't be doing that.
Yeah, you got too many grandkids around here.
My days on Saturday, we got 44 seconds. Saturday now is like basketball. What's the deal with Saturday basketball? They have like 3 games
Yeah, that's normal.
on Saturday. So my whole day is Saturday.
My whole life, I've been talking about this, and now he's like, "Oh, now I get it."
It's because basketball is kind of a weak sport. It doesn't take a lot out of you. So you
Sure,
can play,
yeah.
it's like pickleball. You can play 3-4 games a day. It's no big deal. Hockey, though, you get one.
One and done.
Yeah.
Like you run around, boys, and then come back here and sit and rest.
That's it. That's it for this segment.
New line.
This is Real Estate Chalk Talk. Log on to hittnergroup.com, HITTNER group.com. Welcome back, Calvin.
Thanks, Ray.
Love your snide comments. More of that when we return. We'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group. HittnerGroup.com, 612-627-8000. 612-627-8000. I'm all excited to have this conversation with Tom Luansky from Dakota County Parks. So people talk about value in real estate. And Dakota County Parks, that conversation, the great park system in Dakota County comes up more times than you would think when they're talking about homes in Dakota County.
It's a draw.
It is definitely a draw. And for some people more than others, of course, like anything else. But I tell you what, if you've got a house that backs up to a trailway or a bike path that can lead to a park somewhere, it adds value to a property. And our kids, 16 grandkids, they use the park system. They're out there fishing. They're out there all the time. So I'm excited to have this. Tom, what is your position with Dakota County Parks, first of all?
I am the natural resource manager.
Natural resource, what's that mean?
That means, the parks are nature-based. We don't have ball fields, soccer, that sort of thing.
Okay.
It's nature-based where there's forest and prairie. Of course, there's trails and things in there. My team is responsible for restoring and managing the parks, basically, the natural resources of the parks. The water, the vegetation, wildlife, all of that sort of thing.
What do you mean by maintain? Just like, because I just don't, like you go in, just make sure like things are growing well, you fertilize things, you take care of things. Like how do you do that?
Okay, let's go down the rabbit hole, shall we?
Let's go.
Literally the rabbit hole, because it's natural
man,
nature.
Right, got
way
that.
to tie it.
Yeah, tying it in.
It was beautiful. Prior to European settlement, there were, the land was covered in these natural communities.
Okay.
Right? And so Dakota County, prior to Europeans showing up, was about 300,000 acres of prairie.
All right.
And a prairie is a natural community dominated by herbaceous plants, grasses and flowers and things like that. People quickly found out that the prairie soils are deep and dark and rich, and it grew a lot of crops. And so most of the prairie has been converted from this natural community to cropland,
right.
Corn and soybeans and things like that. And so it's been converted. So we have very little prairie left. And also with this global community that we live in, we have commodities and things moving all over the world.
Right.
And sometimes there are species, whether they're animals or plants, that are native, say, to China or to Europe, get on these ships and come over here, or people bring them over here on purpose. Like a big one is buckthorn. You may have heard of that.
Oh, yeah. Used to sell it.
Yes, right. Well, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I know.
It was brought to this country as a landscaping hedge.
Yes.
And it works great in that way. People would plant it around their yards, and it was just this thick, wonderful. Well, there weren't any of the natural diseases and insects that would keep it in check, right? There weren't things that evolved with it. So it started growing over here. They escaped into our forests and woodlands, and because there were no controls on it, it just went crazy. So a lot of the forested lands, especially in the metro here, are just chock full of this shrub. And it's
Thorny.
Thorny, right.
Horrible.
And it's so thick that it shades out a lot of the native plants. Now, in addition to that, earthworms. It's a part of this equation. Historically, there were not earthworms in Minnesota.
No way.
So the at one point, there was a sheet of ice where we're sitting right now that was about a mile thick. There weren't any earthworms in Minnesota.
There wasn't anything in Minnesota.
There wasn't. Right. It was, well,
ice.
Ice, right. And so once the ice sheets melted back, animals started showing up. There weren't any earthworms, and people brought them here. You go fishing with them. What do you do? I have 5 worms left over. What am I going to do? I've heard it's good for the garden, so I put them there.
Right.
Well, those also escaped. Worms eat the duff layer, the dead plant material that's, so leaves die in the fall and they fall on the ground.
Yep.
And there are a group of plants that need that duff layer in order to thrive and live. Worms eat that. And so if you go out into these areas, I'm getting back to buckthorn.
Sure.
Right. So the worms out in these forested areas eat that duff, and you just have bare soil. Because the native plants can't survive in these areas that don't have any duff layer. Right?
Okay.
And
so
the duff layer was eaten by the earthworms.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the problem, because earthworms aren't native here. They would come and eat this duff layer.
Don't the robins eat the worms?
They do.
Okay.
Right. Yes. So where was I going this before the robin comment?
I don't know.
So buckthorn and earthworms have worked. They don't know this, but they're working together. So you have this bare soil because of the worms, and buckthorn gets established there,
sure.
and it goes crazy.
Thrives.
And so part of our job is going in and controlling these non-native species in order to, and we can't do anything about earthworms, but we can remove the buckthorn and replant some of the native plants in there. Our job is to reweave the natural communities out there, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
It's this cloth.
Right.
And it's not a perfect analogy, but I think of it as similar to a healthy and thriving human community.
Mm-hmm.
The diversity of your human communities, you have churches and you have civic organizations and gas stations and industry. And so it's a healthy community. Everything's working together. People love to work there. You have parks.
Right.
If your industry starts closing, right, and people are out of jobs, they don't have money to spend in the grocery store, and the community starts to degrade, right? We've seen examples of that. Same thing in these natural communities. If you start losing these species, everything is interconnected, like human communities. If you start losing one or two of these species because they're tied to other things, those species are impacted by that, and pretty soon these natural communities start to degrade.
Okay.
Our job is to try to, if we need to bring some of the species back, to reweave that cloth of these natural communities. That is our role in Dakota County.
So at least then the people, the residents of the county, can go to an area and say, "This is how it used to be."
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
A visual, like a painting.
Yes.
Say, look at how it used to be. We're not going to make all of it, because we're not going to make the factories go away, and we're not going to make the gas
right. We're not going to
We're
take
not gonna
away
do
the
it,
cornfields.
But at least this corner, this little patch of ground, is how it. So you can see your history.
That's exactly. A lot of people are interested in human history. I'm interested in the natural history. What was this landscape like 400 years ago? People can have a chance to go out and walk on a prairie in Lebanon Hills Regional Park or Spring Lake Park and get a sense of what Dakota County was like 300 years ago.
How do you know that's true, though? How do you know that?
That's a great question. Yeah.
So back when they did the land survey, was it back in the mid-1800s?
Right.
They had these survey crews go across the country, and they would do section lines, quarter section. So when they marked the section line or quarter section line...
That was in Real Estate 101, Keith, by the way. Okay.
They would take notes about what were the plants there at that part.
Okay.
Right? So there's an oak tree there, or it's prairie. A gentleman by the name of Merschner took all of those notes and made these original vegetation maps of Minnesota.
Including drawings? And
not so much drawings, but so it's not exact. But we got a sense of, because of this notes, that Dakota County was mostly prairie based on the notes that these land surveyors did. So it's a pretty good approximation of what this area was like back in the mid-1800s.
And there still remains in other parts of the state and other parts of the country areas that have not been disturbed.
Yes, it's harder and harder to find areas like that.
But there's at least a blueprint there.
Yes.
Of what it would have been like here.
So there's probably in Minnesota less than 1/2% of the native prairie remaining in the state. Mm-hmm. The species that rely on that ecosystem are becoming rarer and rarer because they don't have a place to live.
Right.
And so there are these remnants in Dakota County that we go to and say, what are the species that are living there? Mostly plants.
Right.
And sometimes we'll collect seed from that. We have a new greenhouse. We grow those in order to, again, weave that cloth of these natural prairies or forests back together again.
All right. So then now we come into what I want to talk about the next segment is the Buffalo Project, which I find pretty fascinating myself. I want to, who thought of that, of doing that? Is that just an extension of what you're doing now? We got about 44 seconds before we run out of time here. So just kind of set it up, tee it up, set the table.
One of the county commissioners had a discussion with the president of the Minnesota Zoo.
Okay.
There are some bison at the Minnesota Zoo. Mm-hmm. And the president of the zoo is thinking, boy, have a discussion with this county commissioner. Wouldn't it be nice if there was a place in Minnesota where it wouldn't be a zoo setting, but we could put bison out on the prairie so people can experience what it must have been like for bison just to be out on a prairie. Mm.
Well, let's talk more about that in the next segment. I was just in Shakopee the other day, and one walked right across the street in front of me. So, interesting stuff. 612-627-8000 is our phone number, Real Estate Chalk Talk, and we'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back to Your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group, hittnergroup.com, Hittner Group.com. In the studio with Tom Lewinsky from Dakota County Parks. When we went out to break, we said we're going to start talking about the Buffalo Project. An extension of the Minnesota Zoo or in cooperation with the Minnesota Zoo? Or how does that work?
In cooperation. There is a group of organizations called the Minnesota Bison Collaborative.
Okay.
And our goal is to have more bison in the landscape throughout the state.
Who belongs to the Minnesota Bison Collaborative?
So the Minnesota Zoo, the Zolman Zoo down in Rochester, Minnesota Department of Natural Resources.
Okay.
Dakota County, and there are some tribal nations as well that are joining it. The group is growing all of it.
Any private citizens?
We invite private bison ranchers to these meetings so they can learn what we're doing, and we're learning what they're doing.
Are there private bison ranchers?
Oh, there are. Yes.
Really?
Yeah, that raise bison for
food.
Okay. For food, right? Exactly. Yeah, you can buy bison in the stores.
Sure.
So, they're regular ranchers.
Right, raising it just like they'd raise cattle.
And walk through like how you got them here and where are they? Like, where are the bison? Like what parks are they in and stuff like that? Like, if I'm at Lebanon Hills, am I going to run into one on the trail? Or
if you do, please call me because they're not supposed to be there.
Okay.
So, yeah. So let's go down the rabbit hole again.
All right.
So the story starts with Prairie. Mm-hmm. So we have to go way out west, when the Rocky Mountains started to come up off the earth.
All right.
And they're huge. So we get our prevailing winds are from the west, southwest. Mm-hmm. And so as these moist winds are coming off of the Pacific Ocean, they hit the mountains, and what do they have to do? They have to go up and over.
Right.
So as air rises, it cools.
Right.
Cool air can hold less moisture than warm air. So as the air systems are moving up, they're cooling off, and they're dumping the moisture onto the ground. That's where you get all the snows and all the rain is over there. So the air systems come up over the Rockies, and it drops back down. So you think about where are the deserts and short grass prairies are on the east side of the Rocky Mountains because the moisture has been wrung out of these air systems. Mm-hmm. So these air systems continue to head east, and you get some systems coming up out of the Gulf of Mexico that have more moisture, and it starts mixing, right? And so you go from the deserts to short grass prairies, which are pretty dry. And as you head east, there's more moisture into the system, and you get more shrubs and trees until you get to Minnesota, where
it gets dry and then it starts accumulating moisture.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so as you get to Minnesota here, there's enough moisture that you can support trees and shrubs. There are three natural processes that kept prairies going in Minnesota because there's enough rain to have forest. One would be the climate. There's not much we can do about that. Fire was another thing. The fire would go through these prairies and kill most of the trees until you got to Minnesota, where your oak trees, your bur oaks and white trees have such thick bark. They can survive that, right? So you'd have the oak savannas. And then the third natural process is grazing. And what were the natural grazers on the North American prairies? Is the bison, right? At one time, there were between 40 to 60 million bison that could be found from northern Canada down to northern Mexico, from the Rocky Mountains almost to the East Coast.
I got a question about that. So, like horses, there's different breeds of horses. Are there different breeds of bison as well?
There are different bison throughout the world. In Minnesota, in North America, there are one species.
Okay.
And two maybe subspecies. There's the bison, which is the prairie bison, and then the bison athabascan, which is the woodland bison, more up in Canada. It's the same species. They would interbreed.
Smaller?
I don't know that.
Okay.
They might be. Where was I?
You were talking about the oaks that would not burn.
Right. So if you think about this prairie, and then you would have a couple of bur oaks, 3 or 4 per acre, and then that would transition into your forest. So if you can imagine these prairies down in southwestern Minnesota, either that were set by the Plains Indigenous people or lightning strike, in the fall these grasses are dry. They're incredibly they start on fire quickly. And if driven by the wind, you would have these fires come zooming up through this prairie, very hot, very quick, and then it would slam into the forest of the northeast part of the state.
Okay.
And the maples and birch would die because they can't deal with it, but the oaks would survive. So you have this transition zone between the prairie and the forest would be the oak savanna. And there was a good chunk of oak savanna in Dakota County.
Yeah, so then my thought is, well, wait a minute now. We have hills and valleys and rivers and streams and very moist area in Dakota County, relatively speaking, to the western side of the state. So would bison even be native in Dakota County?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. As I said earlier, there was about 300,000 acres of prairie and oak savanna in Dakota County mid-1840, 1850-ish, right about that time when the area started to be settled. The last bison in Minnesota was seen up in northwestern part of the state about 1880.
Okay.
I predict the last bison in Dakota County was about 1840-ish, just again about the time that this area was being settled.
Pre-Civil War.
Yeah. So we went from a situation where there were between 40 and 60 million bison roaming around the prairie down to about maybe late 1800s, where we were down to a couple hundred.
Where'd they go?
Well,
I mean, you get 60 million to a few hundred?
Yeah. So
harvested,
sport hunting, and to be totally honest with you, there was an effort by the U.S. government to control the indigenous population here.
Okay.
Which gets us into the relationship between the bison and the Plains Indians. The Plains Indians relied on the bison for their whole life.
Sure.
It was their grocery store. They used every part of their body. They used
tools, clothing store, etc.
Exactly. They used the whole part. There was nothing left. Well, if you wanted to control those people, what would you do?
Get rid of
the bison.
Yeah.
Then they're totally relying on you. So I've seen pictures of hundreds, if not thousands, of bison just killed and left out on the prairie. or these huge mounds of a bison skull. And so literally went from this tens of millions down to 100. Well, the only remaining bison herd that has been here forever, literally, was out in Yellowstone. That herd out there has been there all along. There were some ranchers that took bison in and thought, well, maybe we can get the benefits of the bison, mix it with our cow.
Sure.
And that didn't work out. But what it did was it kept some of the bison, right, from going extinct, essentially. And those have been used to supplement. And now there's an effort nationwide to try to build back up the bison. Now, obviously, they will never be able to roam the landscape like they used to.
Right.
But if you have parks like where we reintroduced them at Spring Lake Park Reserve, we have Prairie. It is a way of showing the heritage, natural heritage that we have here.
Where is Spring Lake?
Sure. So
Down
Spring
Prairie
Lake.
Lake area.
Where?
Prairie Lake area.
Prairie Lake, okay.
Savage.
So is there a specific breeding program then that you're involved with too?
Let me correct. Spring Lake Park Reserve is over in Rosemount. Half of it's in Rosemount. Half of it is in Nininger Township.
Oh, not bad.
Just west of Hastings, right along the Mississippi. It's about 1,100 acres of forest and prairie. So your listeners and you three go out there and take a look at it. We just migrated. We just moved the bison yesterday. So we have 150 acres of prairie there.
Not very much, really.
Not very much. And we can only, we calculated we could probably have a maximum of 15 bison out there, which isn't much, but
No.
So we're down to 9. So we got the first bison in the fall of 22. Unbeknownst to us, all the females were pregnant, and the spring of 23, 4 of them gave birth. So suddenly
That was exciting.
It was really exciting. I was out there birding with my son, and I saw one of these bison sitting kind of off by itself in amongst some shrubs and trees, and there was something small laying next to it. And I thought, God, the light was bad. Is that a rock? And then the thing moved, and I knew right then that it was a young one.
Oh.
All of the
We got to have to break, Dad.
Okay,
He's
go.
very excited. And
He's very.
Yeah,
he's
I
not
am.
even looking at the clock.
I'm waiting for the music to come up.
Yeah, it's cool. It's
Give me
cool.
my
This
signal.
is good stuff. It's fun. We're going to wrap up, though, with the fourth segment when we return. This is Real Estate Chalk Talk. Log on to our website, hittnergroup.com. We're having a fun conversation with Dakota County Wildlife Management. I don't even know what we're talking about, but it's like history class right now. It's great. We'll be right back.
And we're actually interested.
Hey, welcome back to the big money segment of the program. 651-231-2500. That's Galvin's number. Give him a ring-a-ling-a-ling. He'll give you the great rates and the low cost to acquire your home mortgage. What's going on?
We're going to hit things real fast, and we'll get back to Dakota County Parks conversation here with Tom. National average right now, 6.14%, 30-year fixed money.
Great.
Rates are okay.
Terrific.
Rates went up a little bit. We're really hoping that we'd just want to get to under 6% with no cost. And right now we're doing some 5.99s, 5.875. Got a VA that's 5.625, which was nice. But you're paying for it, right? So it's not like this is a par or a no cost. You're paying some to get that rate. But rates are okay. And we saw it slow up a little bit. What happens, the jobless claims went down, but the jobs report came out at 130,000. They expected 75,000 new jobs, and it came in. So blew expectations, right? So when that does, the market, you saw the stock market went up. Rates tend to track a little bit with it. So we went up a little bit. The overall consensus is the labor market is stabilizing. What's interesting in that number, the 130,000, that takes into account 42,000 of government jobs that were dismissed or let go, right?
Right.
So decrease in government jobs, opposite of prior administration, and an increase in private sector jobs. So numbers look good. I'm always torn, right? Because I know that when the economy's soft or something's not great, rates kind of come down a little bit. So I'm always in this.
But then the guy that you want to enjoy that low rate lost his job.
He just lost his job. That's not
That's a
great,
problem.
right? So I'm always in this weird spot, right? But I think rates are good. We're busy right now. We have a lot of pre-approvals. Just because I want to get back to here, we won't belabor too much, but we talked in the first segment a lot about buyer's market or seller's market, and I'm torn, right? Because I'm seeing multiple offers in one segment and high-end multiple offers, right? And then we're also seeing a lot of seller-paid closing costs. We're seeing some price reductions coming across as well. People are getting good. There's good deals out there, and there's an increase in inventory right now as well. So I think we're just in a really good spot, but I need us to get busier, right? And talking to our team, just like we all need to do a little bit more. There's a lot of homes on the market. There's a lot of pent-up demand.
I think you got a wave coming at you this year.
I hope so.
Yeah,
we need it.
A huge
so,
wave.
everything's good in our arena. We just want to have more conversations, and we're so close on rates. Like, there's a lot of people that, we're like so close to refinancing, but it's just not there yet. So we're hoping we pick up a little bit more, but we're having a lot of conversations on just like, what's that strike price or what's that rate that if we get to this rate, like, lock it, because things come and go, right? Yesterday we just had a wild, this doesn't matter to anybody, but just there was such great fluctuation throughout the day. So we started, let's say we started at 5, we went to 95, then we went down 95, and we ended the day exactly at 5. So it's just like this fluctuation throughout the day. The lock desk is closing about every 3 hours. Just crazy.
And then this obsession that our culture has with immediate information, it exacerbates that whipsaw mentality.
Absolutely.
I mean, it just, it's like, oh my golly,
Yep.
At the end of the day, it's going to work its way out. You don't have to go minute by minute.
Right. And, the consensus for the year has been low 6s for the year of 2026, right?
We're sitting there.
We're sitting there now, and our consensus on who we listen to the most is like about a 5.7% rate for 30-year fixed money. We're right in that range. I mean, we're right kind of where we're going to be.
Yeah.
So don't delay. If you're thinking about it, don't delay and start that conversation.
And a quarter
now.
point isn't going to, if a quarter point matters to you, you shouldn't be looking.
Right. Gosh, it's interesting. People will say, hey, what if I do 5,000 less or 5,000 more? I'm just like, I've done it. I'm like, it'll be less or more than the number I gave you, but not significantly.
Right.
So
Couple bucks.
with
Couple
that,
bucks.
what I'd love to do is just have the conversation, 651-231-2500. And I want to get back to talking about bison.
Yeah, I do.
Because why not?
Super
Makes sense.
cool stuff.
So here's my question is, where are they, the bison that you've introduced back in Minnesota? How do I go see them if I want a special date night? Think Keith, maybe you take, your gal out there and look at some bison, So where do we find them?
Sounds like an excellent date night.
It would be a
Look
good
at the
date night.
bison.
Your fun date. Well, forget
When we were considering bringing bison to one of our parks, the wonderful people at the Department of Natural Resources that have been working with bison for a number of years went out with us, and we evaluated each of the parks. And
when you say evaluate, what is that? And we have 5 minutes, but how do you evaluate? Just
is there enough prairie there?
Okay.
And so
Food, water, shelter.
exactly. Well, and another
Keith.
perspective on this was to the person. I talked with a lot of people before we did this because it could be a huge risk. People told me that, Tom, if you're going to have bison, people are going to want to see them. And so you need parking and restrooms and water, all of that sort of thing. So that eliminated some of the parks. We decided that Spring Lake Park Reserve was the best place for them because there's parking and there's restrooms, the amenities that people will need. And plus, we had 150 acres of prairie there.
Just to put that in perspective, how many acres is the park system encompass now? Total acres, off the top of your head?
I'll just go through these. I realize we're out of time, almost out of time. Lebanon Hills is about 2,000 acres. Spring Lake Park Reserve, about 1,100 acres. Whitetail Woods Regional Park, 456. Lake Billsby Regional Park, 620. Measler Park Reserve, 1,850. Okay. So, I don't know, we're looking at 6,000 acres total.
Okay.
So we landed on Spring Lake Park Reserve as the place to put them. We had the prairie there, amenities for people, so that's where we decided to do the first herd. And so we had to put the infrastructure in. We needed to put fencing around the whole thing. We have 6 or 8 miles of 7-foot fence that goes around the whole
electrified
thing.
or no?
No electrified,
okay.
no. We put in, because people were a little bit concerned about, okay, what if they get out?
Yeah.
It's a herd animal, which means they don't want to be off by themselves.
Right.
It freaks
if one
them
goes,
out.
they're all going.
That's right. Or if one gets out of the fence, what does it want to do? It wants to get back in. So we put 18 gates around the periphery. If one gets out, we just open up a gate and say, okay, go on, get in there. So if people go to the west end of Spring Lake Park Reserve, there's parking there. We just moved the bison from the eastern paddocks to the western area. And so they should be pretty visible at this time when they go out there to see.
So are they roaming around? Where does a bison sleep at night? They didn't have paddocks. They didn't have shelter.
They didn't. So they just go to sleep where they are out in the prairie.
They lay down? They stand up like a horse all the time?
They lay down.
They do lay down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the 150 acres is because the Mississippi River Greenway Trail kind of winds through this prairie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you probably heard stories out in Yellowstone where people do knucklehead things. They try to take a selfie with it and they end up flying 10 feet in the air.
Yeah.
We didn't want to deal with that. So we had to make these paddock systems that excluded the trail from that. So we moved them occasionally.
Okay.
And so we moved them from that more eastern paddocks to the western area that they're very visible, near the parking, near the road. And so, I can't guarantee if people go out there, you're going to see them.
Yeah.
They're wild animals, and they come and go as they will within that paddock
These
system.
things are giant. They can dunk a basketball.
Yes, and they're quick. They can run 35, 40 miles an hour, and they can jump from a standing location 6 feet in the air. So we had to consider that when we put the fences in. We had to make it 7 feet tall. And yet, so some of the things we had to consider, there are other animals out there. There's rabbits and fox and coyotes and badger. We didn't want to
impede them. Right?
We didn't want to impede them, so we put the fence maybe a foot off of the ground.
Oh.
And we know, because in the winter you can see the trails, they can come and go. It hasn't been in a
What about
impediment.
deer?
They go up and over that. I've seen them. They go up and over 7 feet fence.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it seems to be working pretty well.
Do they react to human interaction when people are there? Or do you feed them? Do you drop bales? Or they're kind
in the winter,
they're on their own?
We do set aside maybe 20 large bales of prairie hay if needed.
Okay.
They evolved in this area. They evolved, 20 degrees below zero the other day. They were fine.
They're out there scratching around in the
Yes,
snow.
exactly right. So they can get the food that they need from the prairie out there. Oh. We have bales. The most important thing is their safety and health, right? If we see that if we get a bunch of snow and rain and we have this ice, we may throw a bale out there for them to chew on just to make sure that they have enough food. I'm not worried about it. In each of the paddocks, there is a waterer. Mm-hmm. Most, the native bison would get their water either from the snow or local stream. Well, there isn't a stream there. So we have winterized water that they can get water wherever they are. Again, their safety and health is the most important thing to us.
It's so interesting. So Spring Lake Park, if you want to check it out, there's parking on the side, and take your binoculars with you, and you'll be able to maybe check them out and see them. How the buffalo thrived in the wild. I like this. I'm going to check it out, Keith Reno. That's it for this week on Your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group. HittnerGroup.com. Tom, thanks for coming in. This is a very interesting conversation.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
HittnerGroup.com, 612-627-8000 for the people in